Hello and welcome to Wikipedia Weekly Network here, where Albin Larsson and I, Jan Ainali, are editing Wikidata live. Hello, Albin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're doing maps.
Yes! It's a 30 days maps challenge.
Yeah, where people in various themed areas those designs for those areas 30 days in a row or just one day.
Yeah, for us it's going to
And
be one day.
and if you, for example, are on Twitter, you can check out the hashtag.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on over
Yeah,
there.
they make lots of people makes a lot of beautiful maps.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, experiments and trying out new tools and combining data and stuff like that. It's all great.
Indeed, very inspiring, I must say.
Yeah. So what do you have plans for the maps today then?
Yeah, so it was about a year ago, actually, for last year's challenge. We showed how to use Wikidata with a tool called KeplerGL, which is a geospatial visualization and analytics tool. And I'm going to show that again because
All
that
right.
allows you to do a lot more advanced stuff than the Wikidata query service. So, but they kind of integrate nicely together. So that is what I will show. And you, Jan.
I am gonna try to take on a task in adding maps to Wikipedia articles and making queries on Wikidata and putting them through Kartographer.
Right.
So that's my main goal today. And hello, Nicholas, and everyone who's watching. Please ask us questions because Kartographer is a little bit tricky and new. And if you have any viewpoints on how I'm doing stuff, feel free to give me tips. We do have, and I think I'll start sharing this page. There's a really good, there's a good help page for Kartographer with examples and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you one thing that is important that we noticed last time. And we did make some notes here in the documentation. And that is when you're querying Wikidata, you must call the main variable ID. That's really important.
Right.
To get anything to show. And then there's also a few other things like fill, title, and description that can be used. So fill can be used like in this example here to make things red or blue. And if you click on one of these, take some time, it will open up in the full screen view. And if you click this, here is where you can get the title in bold and the description. And with a little bit of trick, you can do some wiki text in there as well. I'm not going to do any wiki text today, though, but we'll be using this to make something.
And
clearer.
this, you're currently showing it on mediawiki.org, but this system is actually pretty much on every Wikipedia nowadays, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So this should be you should be able to do this in your local wiki.
Yeah, so many people might not have seen interactive maps on Wikipedia, but it's a thing.
It's a thing.
And we hope more people will end up using it.
Yeah, be inspired by what we're doing. So I'm just looked at a few things on Swedish Wikipedia, like what are things that we could do as maps? And I found an article called "List over lighthouses in the Stockholm archipelago," yes. So I thought, let's try to make a map out of that because I think the query is a little bit interesting, and we'll see where we go. So I'll head over here to our query tool, and today I'm actually going to start with the cats. I'll remove the actual cat, and as we remembered, it should be called ID. So I'll change that, and then here we'll also change to ID, and this of course says, well, this is a cat. We don't want a cat, we want a lighthouse, so we'll remove that. Everything out here. So I don't know the QID for lighthouse. I'll use the control space to get the autocompleter, and we get the lighthouse in the first. So that's a good start. Now I can get all the lighthouses. But this should be in the Stockholm archipelago, and this needs some thinking, because one might think it's just a municipality, but the municipality is quite small, so we'll go for the entire county here. And we'll get a little bit too much, because in that list they don't use all of the lighthouses in the county, but they should perhaps be extended. So to get that, we'll go for them to be in an administrative area. I think that's located, yes, in the administrative territorial entity even.
Right.
But knowing this, they probably have a municipality which is in. So we'll add a star here to have it traverse this. And then we want Stockholm County. Stockholm County. So hopefully this should give us around 300 something. Let's just try to run this and see if we get anything at all. 308. That's fairly good.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
Yeah. I'll switch this one for Swedish as main to make sure they get a label.
Right.
Would be nice, perhaps. Well, let's just try to do that for a start.
Yeah, right now we aren't selecting any geospatial data, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes. So
Kartographer itself understands that.
So let's try to ask them for, and of course, if we want to plot them, they need to have a coordinate.
Right.
So we can just go like this, and then make sure that we also.
Just to illustrate the Wikidata cursors as well.
So now we can run this, and we'll hopefully get coordinates. And if we switch here to map, yes.
Yeah.
So this looks really good. And we're just going to do a check, because there's what is this called? Link to tool, external tool that shows this on all the coordinates on this page in OpenStreetMap, and we'll see if it sort of looks the same. Yes, it does.
Indeed. It even seems like we have a little bit more in Wikidata.
Yeah, I think so. I think they excluded a few of the in.
Right, around the Mälaren Lake.
Yes, exactly. But here's the thing where I got stuck, because now I have this nice query, and I wanted to take this to Kartographer and show it in the article. But unfortunately, Kartographer only allows for geo-shapes and geo-lines. So it cannot show single points on a map right now. So this is, consider this sort of my lobbying for this issue to be solved. So we're sort of stuck there. We could create a query quite easily, but we cannot get into Wikipedia. So I got to thinking, all right, let's go with some shapes instead. So I was thinking about, well, what do we have that are shapes then? Well, we have municipalities, and I found this list, and this list is specifically interesting for Wikidata, I would say, because now this list is manual, but this is a list over the 50 largest municipalities in the Nordics. And of course, since it's so narrow here, the order is changing every year. So it's lot of maintenance doing this everywhere. So this should really be a Wikidata task instead. So let's try to write this as a query and see if we can get that to show. That was my thought. So I'll head back over here. And we're going to keep ID and ID label for now. But we're going to try to do a little bit of a trick here, because we would like here, instead of saying lighthouse, say a municipality or something like that. And this is a little bit tricky to do just out of the bat as it is, but there's a thing we can use here, because all these countries has a special item for the municipality.
Right.
So we
a Norwegian municipality is not the same as a Swedish one, for example.
Yeah. So we can do a list of these types here. And you use the values, and then you say the name, and then you list all the different items. And the item is going to be something like municipality of, I'm going to select this one and copy, because I'm going to reuse that. Sweden, like that. And then we'll have municipality of Denmark there. Of Finland. Of Norway. And of Iceland.
Right.
And then we'll just, over here, instead of saying an item, we say it should be of the type. Can you add the labels as comments to the QIDs? Is a question here.
I think for the values query, maybe, I imagine.
Yeah, yes, you could do that as a comment afterwards to remember it. And I think that I'm not sure that's going to be really good later on. I'll show you why.
Right.
And here's a good question. Yes, we could add that. Turns out they're not on the top 50 list. So, but if we want to be really future-proof, yes, if we expect them to come in here. And then we're going to remove a few things here as well. So now let's just run this and see what we get. This should be quite a lot. This should be like more than 1,000 something,
yeah,
maybe 1,500, 1,100. So that seems about right. And lots of municipalities. Yes, great. So we have a good start here. Now, what we want here is the population, because that's how we're going to order this. And here, I'm going to call this description was my first thing. But it turns out it's going to be a little bit tricky, because population is a number, and the description later has to be a string. So we'll call this description int for an integer, because we don't have any half persons in the populations.
Right.
And then we'll do here, we'll select this one for now, in the top, and just do order by description int. That's a spelling error, but that doesn't matter. And we'll limit by 50, because there were only 50 things in the list on Wikipedia.
Right.
So
that's our filter already.
Yes. So here we have 50. I ordered in the wrong order, so now we got the 50 smallest. So let's change that to descending instead.
Right.
And here we have the 50 largest. All right.
Oh, interesting.
So let's try to put this into this article. And I think for now, I'm going to just put it in the top here and see how it looks. I'm not logged in. Oh, I was logged out. Was I logged in on Wikidata? Oh, I haven't been on Wikidata yet. Just been doing queries. Let's see if I can get in here. Yes, there we go. And it takes a little time for it to load. There we go. So we want to have a map frame. And on Swedish Wikipedia, we don't have any templates for this yet. So we'll just do the original way. Some wikis have already implemented templates for this. And then it wants longitude.
But this way will work on all wikis, we might say.
Yes, exactly. We'll try 7, I guess. Latitude.
Something like it.
Perhaps 62. And I go with 200. No, I'm going to go 400 for width. $200. And a zoom level of 3. And we want some sort of explanation here as well. I'm just going to copy that from the page. 50 largest municipalities in the Nordics. So that's sort of like the setup.
You're missing a quote at the end there, Jan.
Oh, right. That's going to mess it up if I don't have it. And then this one wants to be fed by a lot of things.
Indeed. But this would render a map as it is, right? But it would be empty, essentially.
Oh, that's a good question. So we can always go to the preview and see what it shows. So hopefully this should actually show us an empty map, but cornered on the right place of the Earth.
Exactly.
I cannot spell to height, apparently. No, that's true. I couldn't. So that's actually a helpful text.
Because one does not necessarily need to do interactive maps with Wikidata data.
Yeah.
One can actually draw their own data or load data from Wikimedia Commons and such.
Yeah. And here we see recently good centering of the thing. So it's a good start. So now we need to add a few things for this. And we're actually going to take a look at the page over here. And we see that these are the two things that are actually making us selecting external data something. And that it's going to come with geo shapes. And then we can also see here's a query thing with. So we're actually going to copy all this, boom, into here. And then we're going to end it. And in between here, we're going to put our query on this little thing. Now the tricky part is is that Kartographer is a little bit like, I only want to show, or I only want queries on a single line.
Right.
So I'll paste it here first, and then we'll have to sort of remove everything so it's on just one line.
We got a great question here from Nicholas, wondering if one can change the projection of the map. And no, you cannot. There is only one projection supported here.
And we had some extra text here that we're not going to need. And let's go.
But that would be a great feature, thinking of glaciers already. And how disordered the poles are.
Get something of this. Now, we only have the ID. We don't have title or description here yet. So this will not give us any extra information, but hopefully, no.
Let's see.
There, it's these things again.
Yeah, it's the label service and the quotes.
Is it still that one? I think it's not that one. It is still that one in some sense, I think.
Indeed, it must be that one.
Let me remove this entire thing.
Right.
And see if that works. No. There's some error elsewhere.
Oh, we're missing the brackets, the starting and ending brackets.
The ending bracket. There we go. And it should be
and
one
the starting
before.
one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So one over here.
And I feel confident that you can add the label service back there as well.
Yes, indeed. So we'll copy this. Well, not the entire thing, because that's going to break anyway, I think. So.
And we actually got the same recommendation from the YouTube chat, so thank you very much.
Chat is with us, but I'm still going to need this to change, because this one will break it. All right, now we might have something. All right, something, it's thinking, that's a good thing, but it doesn't show anything. Right, where query.
Or is
or
it?
Does it?
Yeah, I'm wondering, the preview service sometimes...
There it comes, a little bit slow.
Exactly.
All right, nice. So here we have the 50. Now we want to make this a little bit more helpful. So I'm going to start trying to change what we show. So right now, when I click here, nothing happens. And even if I go into the preview mode, if I click on these, nothing. And that's because I'm not feeding it title or description, which is the only thing it can actually show here. So we'll start by fixing that. And it's a little bit hard to edit in here. So it might be easier to actually just switch back to this while doing it. So instead of ID label, we're going to do with title here. And then we'll have to go into our service here and explicitly ask it to give us it. So we'll say ID RDFS label, I think it is, and say assign this to title. Switch it here because I'm going to go back and forth a few times so I don't forget it. And now if I copy this entire thing here and go back in here and change this. And we have a title here. We didn't have a title here. Title there. And let's see if it comes with us. Let's preview here. Will take some time. I think it's running. It hasn't popped up the thing here in the corners yet. There it comes. A lot of things going on. Very slow. Oh, and there it comes. And this is a little bit misleading because when you're previewing something, you can actually see this. But after you publish it, you need to go into the full. But at least we know that one is. So now we have the labels there, nice. Now we want to show this as description. And as I said, this comes as a number. So we'll have to stringify it. So string as description. And like this. So that's what I'm going to change it to. So I'll just try it here first and see that it actually runs. And that I get something. Yes, so I get a column with description with the same thing. So I can grab this, go back over here, find this little thing there and change it. And if I run this now, hopefully underneath the label, it will say the population. So we'll see if it loads here. And all right, fingers crossed. Yes. No 1000 separator or anything like that. So you might have to style that for your language, how you want it manually, but at least that's sort of the idea how to get it in there. I'm not totally satisfied yet. So let's see if I can use the fill thing that we saw over here, because this colorized here. So I'm thinking if I go over here and I want to use, I want to bind
you want to have the color of the shape being reflected by the description in 3D.
Yeah. So right. if description is larger than, let's say, 500,000, I want it to become red. So right. I'll go FF000. And if description is larger than 100,000, I want it to go orange. So let's give it this, and if otherwise, let's just do it yellow.
And here, I think you need to change out the double quotes to single quotes, right?
Yes, that's probably going to break it. Otherwise, you're totally right. So the query service itself doesn't care, but Kartographer do care.
Indeed. And we got the sharp sign missing in the second last color, right?
Yes. Thank you. And do I have, I think I'm missing one there. Let's see if that runs. Well, we have to select for this one again. No, we're going to select the fill. That's what we want to do. So we find this as fill.
And then, yes, another parentheses.
Another one after that?
No, you got the one. You got the one I was thinking of.
Let's see if it complains or not. So here we see the large ones are red, orange, and then in the bottom here there should be a few yellow. Yes. All
And
right.
you know those colors by
That's
hand?
designer damage to my brain.
Right. That's
But it's
impressive.
the R is easy because this is RGB, and the yellow is easy because red and green combined is yellow.
Oh, I see. I
So
see
the
the
orange
trick.
one is sort of in between there. So I'll copy all of this and I'll head back over here. I'll see some good place to stop, put it in. I think I'm gonna try it over here before the service. And then we need to add the fill to the select here as well. And fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
No red box, that's good. It takes
Indeed.
a while for it, that's good. And all right, we got some colors. Let's look a little bit closer here. So we see some large orange and yellow things, and then the red ones tend to be small. We have Oslo, Helsinki. You don't even see the Stockholm red one here because it's so a lot of people in that very small area.
And I think
And then we have
Copenhagen is something
Gothenburg.
similar.
Yeah, Copenhagen, very small over here as well. And then someone noticed there's an oddity here because Bergen was in the query, it's not in the list. And that's because in OpenStreetMap, this one points to the city of Bergen right now. So I will not save this one for just right now. I want to make sure I edit the OpenStreetMap correctly before I do that. And I know that there's a little bit tension between the cities and municipalities about around Norway. So I'll respect that and try to figure out to do it in a good way. But that is sort of like the basic thing how to do this.
Right.
And
we also got a great tip from Nicholas in the chat that yes, one can
style the stroke. All right,
well.
that would make it even more clear.
There are a couple of things in the official documentation that is still missing. Although we improved it from the last time we did this.
Yeah.
Um,
And while I didn't save this one in the article, I'm going to give you the short URL, if I can, to the same thing in my sandbox.
right.
So you can find this query in the Kartographer format on this page for
Nice.
capital P72, and you can try it out and see if you can do some colorful things and map things. All right. That's my map of the day.
Right. And I'm aiming to do a couple of maps actually. So let me start by heading over to the Wikidata query service. But I first want to just quickly talk about the tool here we're gonna use. We're gonna use something called KeplerGL. And the great thing with this tool is that it takes a lot of various formats. Most importantly for us, it takes CSV because the Wikidata query service allows us to download it. But we need to have our CSV structured in a specific way. So I'm actually to show you the difference, I'm gonna start by making a regular Wikidata query service map. And I'm thinking about runestones in Sweden as a good example. So I'm gonna start by selecting those. Select, let me learn how to spell first. Select. I use select distinct because of a habit, so just reducing the chances that I get duplicate rows. And I want runestones in Sweden, so let's call this runestones. It should be an instance of should be an instance of or subclass of a runestone. So let's make sure we include subclasses as well. I imagine fragments of runestones might be something that we might get there. And runestone. Stone with a runic inscription, that must be it. And because I want to do a regular Wikidata map to begin with here, I want to select the coordinate location, there we go. Call that location for now, and then let's select the runestone. Let me change my variable name there to make a little bit more sense. And grab the location as well. And let's just have a label for to save us some trouble. These are all the runestones and not necessarily Swedish ones, but that's fine for the example. Runestone label. There we go. Let's run this and see what we get in.
How many do you think there should be?
It depends. I think this sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
I imagine there are technically much more that we don't have in Wikidata, especially fragments. There might be plenty of fragments, for example, at museums and such.
Yeah.
And let's just display this as a map to see what we got to work with. And this looks rather like it should, I believe. I think we got a couple of disputed ones that are still. There's the
Kensington one. At least, yes.
And such.
Yeah.
So some of them are up for discussion, so to say, but otherwise it looks rather correct. Yeah. But we can't use this. If I would download this as CSV, we wouldn't get the latitude and longitude. We would actually get, let me show it by going to the table. We would get it in the current format, like point, followed by parentheses, then the latitude and longitude and such. And KeplerGL does not understand this format. It understands a couple of different formats, but the one we are after here, because it's simpler, would be to go with one column for latitude and one for longitude. But VDT here is essentially a shortcut to the value as it's stored in the Wikidata query service engine, or its database, so to say. And we want to grab the specific volumes themselves. One could mess around with like turning this into string, split it by its space and such. But Wikidata actually allows us to grab this value easier. So I'm gonna do that by, instead of grabbing the value as it is, I'm gonna grab the statement about this. So it contains things as qualifiers and references and much more of the metadata, so to say. And given this location here, we can now select another node containing information, and this would actually contain the value, but all the details about the value, so to say. And here I want the coordinate location again, so it is PSV and the same number as we have above. And this is the, so to say, the object or the node containing the various details about the value. So I'm gonna call this object maybe. And having selected that object, we can now access it here. So I'm gonna say object, and then we can access Wikibase and geo latitude, for example. We can select that as lat. And we also, of course, need the objects longitude. And
That's very handy. So a little bit tricky to get there, but then very clean.
Indeed, it's not super obvious, and I don't think we have any like great examples here. But indeed, when we connect to access it, it's rather easy. So I want to do lawn and flat like that. And for the sake of it, for the sake of the demonstration of Kepler.gl, I actually want to select the country as well. And I do that up here. So that would be VDT country. I actually don't care about the identifier of the country. I care about the country label. So I'm just gonna select that one. Country. Did I spell everything correctly? No, I missed something here. That should be right. I'm gonna
That
run
should
it
do
to
something.
make sure it works. We got a couple of additional ones because some of them have moved between countries and therefore they appear as duplicates. We, for example, got a couple of ones which have moved between Sweden and the UK, I believe, over
So
time.
really, we should update with a best value or preferred value for where it is right now.
Right, exactly. Or check for the end date of a
Yeah.
specific statement and such.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna skip that for the demonstration here. I'm gonna download the CSV file. I don't think it shows up on your screen here, but
No.
trust me. And then I'm gonna head over to Kepler.gl, and it has a great link because it's just Kepler.gl, but for the sake of it, there it is. And I'm gonna browse my files here, head to my downloads folder, select the file I just downloaded, and it actually loads straight into Kepler.gl here, and we can see that it tries to center on in the middle of all of them. And we actually got a bunch of points just rendered here, and it automatically added a layer from this. And I can open up this layer and do, for example, we can see all of them and all their data. I can actually, let's see, where do I have the label? There, I got the label. In case I wanted to just have the name displayed next to it, I can do so. But it's a lot of labels, especially in Sweden. So
Yes.
I won't do that. But it's a possibility. But I got this fill color, and I think that's a great one because I should be able to make the fill color depend on a field. And I want it to depend on the country label.
All right.
And now we can see that it has a very similar color because we got this color scale. You can see if we head over to the US, yeah, we got a bit of an orange color. Then we got various reds, and we can actually see here that we got one that seems a little off. So if I hover over it, or select it even, we can see that it actually got the United Kingdom as a country. This is one of those that have moved. So it's one of those things we would need to edit or select, make sure we select. I'm gonna change up the colors here so we can see the difference a little better. And I weren't very successful. Do we have something with a bit more
That
movement?
should be better.
Indeed. Let's select it. Hello. Oh, it's still
It
deciding to
just
go
happened
with,
to be Denmark and
let's see, Norway, and it still says Denmark. Yeah, they just happens to be very similar. That's odd. It doesn't seem to be correct with the scale. That's also not correct. Oh, I think that was the best one we got anyway. So it illustrates, and it also makes it really easy to spot things like this. And we can actually do a bunch of more things. We might not need to care about this being points. We might want to do, we might want to aggregate them into, I don't know, let's do hex bins for now. This one's very small, but we have a lot of tools that allows us to scale it. And we just have a ton of various options here. I want to show off two specific things, but with different queries. It actually got a bunch of filters here, so we can do like interactive timelines, as well as if it goes to it, like making lines in between points. So I'm actually gonna head over to the query service, and I'm gonna start by doing a query for battles, historic battles essentially. So I want to change out the runestones here with just battles. Did I spell incorrectly or
Perhaps just battle?
Yes, of course, battle. Part of a war which is well defined in duration, area, and force commitment. That's it. I could leave the country in there for now, so this should be a fully working one. But I want to make a timeline, so I also need the time of the battle, or at least some time of it, like the start time or something like that. And we can actually select that with something called point in time. So I'm gonna add that, PDT point in time. So point in time. But to make sure that we got that as well in the correct format, I'm gonna need to do a bit of fine tuning here. So when I select it, I want to do just like Jan did. He did a select as. So I want to merge things here. I want to, let's see. Yeah, I can just turn it into a year to begin with. Point in time turned into year, then turning that into a string. And I got a lot of parentheses going on here. Not too much, I believe. And I could merge that with the rest of it, of a timestamp string, so to say. So I could concat those two with, let's see, let's pretend it's all battles happen on the 1st of January. That makes a lot of sense. At a given time, and I want to select that as, oh, maybe I didn't have a parenthesis too much, or I want to as time for now. Let's see if that crashes on me, if I got one of them wrong. I did not. We got
Nice.
around 2000. Let's take that and put it into KeplerGL. Downloading the file, heading over to Kepler, gonna reload it just to start a new project. I didn't feel like saving that last one. Can browse my files, pick up the query. I'm at 83 right now. And there we go, it slowly renders in the background map as well. A lot of battles. Let's head, however, straight over to the filters and add a filter. And we're actually selecting the field we want to use to filter, and it correctly recognizes our timestamp as time, and that is essentially what we want. So I'm gonna select that, and directly we get a timeline which we can navigate like this. We can narrow it, we can put it on autoplay, and have it just show us the battles play out. And we could add things like the casualties and then turn it into 3D and have the height scaled by it and much more. I'm gonna let everyone using it get wild with that one. Gonna take a moment here to share this query with all of you. in case you want to produce it and build upon it. A bit of 3D comes to mind on my end. There we go. And I want to start just doing yet one analytic query, just to show you to draw lines in between things. And I actually want to select artists or artists from. I want to show where certain person were born and then where they died and draw a line in between. So I think that makes sense as well, because we can also make those lines into a bit of 3D and such. So I'm going to start from scratch here, actually, at least at the top. I'm going to select an artist. And I'm going to make it easy for myself. I'm not going to select human, has working, or has an occupation artist or so on. I'm just going to head over to a museum and check if they have an identifier there. So the National Gallery here in Sweden makes a lot of sense. And that's the artwork. Here's the actor, or the artist, essentially. And that can be anything. So now I've already limited to artists, so to say. But I got any location here, but I actually want the location of the birth location and the location of your death. So I'm gonna need to grab those next. Location, box of place of birth, it's called. And I'm gonna name it like that. And then I want the place of death. Is that 18 or 20? I wonder.
Good question.
I'm not gonna guess. It's 20. That makes sense that it come in that order.
Yeah.
Gonna call it like that. Slightly cryptic, but enough for me. Then I got here just location, so I could do this and do like Bob, and I would get the place of birth, latitude and longitude. But I actually want to do this twice because I want it for both of those. And I need here to make sure that my variables do not collide.
Mm-hmm.
So that, for example, wouldn't work because object would be overwritten and latitude and longitude as well. I'm gonna be super lazy today and just call this 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and go over here and say 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. Say what you want about that one, but that's what we do today. And I'm just gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna do 1, I'm gonna say 2, I'm gonna say lat. Let's do at least them in the right order here. And let's not talk about the order of latitude and longitude because that's an endless discussion. And yeah,
No, you're having long one twice.
Oh, indeed. This is why you shouldn't do this in practice.
And you don't have the lat one.
There we go.
No.
No, there we do not go.
There you go.
There we go.
Yes.
Right. And I also believe this is going to be a lot of data, so I'm actually going to just make sure I got the time of birth as well, just to make sure that I can filter it somehow. Otherwise, we will end up with a lot of data here, I believe. Date of death. Good. And I'm gonna copy in my string manipulation here to get that into a format I like, or KeplerGL likes. Oops. There we go. Gonna test run this.
You have runestones and artists.
Right. Artist. This is one we
That was
tested.
actually thanks to Nicholas spotting it.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. And let's see. It shouldn't take too long because we are very limited here in the fact that we're limited to artists, but we still got a problem somewhere. That's interesting. Let's cheat then by starting a bit of quick debugging.
No, so
Oh, someone is already capturing it.
you do have selected the place, but you haven't selected the coordinate for the place yet. But you're doing sorry.
Oh yeah, I got it here. We are selecting the shortcut, not the statement itself.
That's the time.
That's the wrong. There we go. That should work. Should take a couple of seconds. No, it still doesn't work. This is annoying today. Oh, of course. I'm assuming here that I'm selecting the place, but never the location. You seem to be on the right track, Jan. So essentially what I need to do is VDT like that. Then here, continue on the place of birth, like that. And then do P65625.
Yeah.
And let's call this pub. Popcorn. It seems a little cool. And just do like that. And I call that code and do code chord like that. Let's see. And that went really fast and still no response. That's always a little concerning. Let's check. So what happens if I then start debugging it slightly? Still nothing. Okay, so something is really playing up here. But that appears to at least got some data to work with. Oh, of course. I'm missing pieces here. That's the second time today. It's a very easy thing, but the tricky one to spot. Maybe that should be a thing in the query editor that it warns you when you do something like that. And let's see. Here we got 6,000 results. And directly I see longitude 0.0 and get skeptical. But otherwise, it looks like we got good data going on. I'm gonna head over and download the CSV. Gonna save it. Head over to KeplerGL, which I will reload. Gonna again browse my files. Query 84 this time. And we can see this time that it didn't load any of the points in. I'm gonna center on Europe because we got the National Gallery of Sweden, artists represented there. And I need to add the layers myself here, essentially because it doesn't recognize the latitude and longitude and sees that we got a bunch of them. So it just recognizes them as floats and not like a point. So I'm gonna pick, to make the one here, I'm just gonna combine the lighthouses that got one, and we got a bunch of points.
That's mirrored. You have long and Latin run.
And that's, let's see here. It should be that one. No, that's the number 2 one. Let's see, what did I do? There we go. So that should be the depth location. And I could do an orchard point. Let's give this a color. Give it color red. And then I want to do a second layer with the same basic point. And now I need to remember that the last one we used were number 2, and this is number 1. We can see that, let's make the color even more clear. Let's do blue and the red one. We can see that they lived and died in different places, so to say. But I want to show the specific ones for each individual. So I'm actually going to go with yet another layer, which I'm going to select another basic type, which is arc. I could do line as well, but I really like the arc one. And here I'm going to go with selecting the start and end point, so to say. So this should be, that was the wrong one. There we go. That's still the wrong one. Let's see, it should be that one. There we go. And we can see that we just got a bunch of lines here. Like crazy. Let's see if I can turn this into 3D view so we can at least see what's going on. So this is Europe, in case you have a hard time seeing it. However, let's add that filter so we actually can see what's going on. We included the date of their birth, so we can actually narrow it down much more. And something else that is super cool actually with the arc one and the lines one is that we can actually have the color transition in between two. So we can select the source color here. We can let the source color for the birth location be blue, and we can let the target location be red. And this means we can directly see that here's a person which is born in, I assume it's Germany or the Netherlands, and died in Stockholm. And this becomes rather interesting because you are able to start seeing this type of pattern. So if we zoom into Stockholm here, into a bit of 3D view, we can actually see this typical pattern that isn't specific to artists at all, but that people generally later in their life or during their life at some point moved into cities. And we can actually see the data represented here.
You could also think about this. You go to Stockholm and die.
Yeah.
So don't go to Stockholm.
You could also see it like that, or we could see it as the general movements of society over time.
Yeah.
That cities tend to become bigger. And we can actually see that this is a pattern which becomes more and more prominent. But we can also go super early on here, I think. Let's see. So for example, let's see what this is about. We should just be able to select this one. If I just made it a little larger than I did. There, I was able to. See if I'm not mistaken. Let's open it in Wikidata. And this should be just some type of, yeah, it's a philosopher. We're very far back in time here, so the description even contains mystic here. But yeah, so we also got someone in Italy here, which moved from the countryside to, let's see if we can zoom in. I imagine this is a city here. Do I get the map? Oh, it won't give me a map. Maybe a person moved to the countryside to another part of the countryside. But especially we can see these patterns over time, and it becomes very interesting, especially when you can make it rather local by zooming in on a particular place. Like like one person here seems to be born in Rome, or at least maybe two, but the rest of them just went there to die, as someone could see it. So you can do a ton of things with KeplerGL and Wikidata, and it becomes super useful because you can actually start seeing this type of patterns. And in case you want to take a map like this and like publish it and share it, it got a share button here, and you can export just a URL to this map you just created. You can export the data. You can even render an image. You can have it embedded. So I think if you click on export map, you can export it as HTML, and you can even allow people to like edit upon it. So incredibly powerful tool, especially combined with Wikidata, which contains information about just about everything. So yeah,
And also a
let's.
beautiful way to visualize like the way you selected artists. Like you could imagine for almost like any data set, we're with an external identifier. Some of them are, of course, too large, but like
Yeah.
if you go with VIAF or something, that will be too many. But
Yeah, and the good thing here is it might be too many for the Wikidata query service, but if you wanted to, the KeplerGL tool can take incredible amounts of data.
All right.
It went a little slow on my end now because I'm recording, but in general, you can do a lot of things. And we got a question here from Nicolas in the chat. I never tried. Can we export the time lapse as a video? There is actually like a plugin or tool upon KeplerGL that allows you to kind of record cinematics. So you actually put like in waypoints, and you can have it move in the 3D space, which is super cool. It's a little too extensive to show here because it even requires a bit of coding, I think, to make it really shine. But there is something out there. I can make sure I grab a link in the future. And that was what I wanted to show you today. I'm just quickly gonna bring up this last link again in case you want to build upon this query. And there we have it.
Very nice. And I'll just quickly show when I changed to stroke, like Nicholas suggested, it also became much clearer instead of having everything covered in gray. Like the colors really pop.
Indeed.
And the only thing I needed to do was see if I can quickly show you it here. Was I bind fill as stroke and selected stroke over there. Oh, stupid! I have this double click script that search on Wikidata when I double click anything. And selected stroke. So very easy to add a lot more clarity to it.
Nice.
And I think that was it for this 30 days map challenge that we had something with maps. I think I might come back with some maps again because I got inspired again trying to do things on Wikipedia with maps.
Yeah, I also got inspired, but I think I got a lot of things in the backlog for
right, yes.
for the live editing we do.
Yeah. So that's it for today. And until next time, happy editing.
Happy editing.